Oh, you're good.
Okay.
And we'll see that you're good. So hello, everybody. If anybody's watching live, maybe Tony. Armchair updates. I've got the Commissioner, Duke. I've got Blue Jays, Josh. That can't possibly be right, but it says Blue Jays, Josh. I think he's the owner of the ABL Giants. But guys, thanks for taking some time out of your Wednesday. We're going to talk some middle of the week round one playoffs. Josh had done some really nice predictive playoff work, and our plan originally was to do it Monday, before the playoffs had gotten underway like they have, but I put it off Monday, and then I had some wacky work stuff Tuesday. So now these guys have both been cool enough to put this off twice, and we're getting to it Wednesday. So thank you both. And I don't know how to I don't want you guys to talk over each other. So Duke, I'll say hi to you. How you doing? How you feeling about your matchup, real quick?
Hey,
there's Tony.
I'm a little bit nervous, actually.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I'm picking up your sarcasm.
Actually, you might be outscoring me today, to be honest. Last time I looked at the
like I said, I think I have negative points on the day, even though I got a win out of one of my relief pitchers. I think I went down in points. Josh, you are of course not in the playoffs through no fault of your own. You were one of the guys that inherited a bum team, but you seem like you were excited enough about ABL playoffs to put some solid work into round one stuff at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think every year during the real MLB playoffs, you always see that one manager that for whatever reason can't actually manage, but always gets brought into like ESPN to be an analyst for all playoffs. So I figure that will be my role in this league. Everyone's sort of got their role. I want that to be mine. Is
that why you're completely selling out with the Blue Jays? Like the Blue Jays are looking to be the high scoring team this week, so you've got the Jays.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a huge Blue Jays fan. My brand's here. I like speedy Royals by the name of Michael A. Taylor. I love Brewers pitchers. Josh Lindblom, real fan of him. One
of your boys.
Just my thing. Yep. One of my boys. One of my many boys.
Well, yeah, because this is your first time. You've been on the football part of the AFL pod network or whatever, but this is maybe these baseball guys, they don't know that you're a huge Blue Jays fan, and if you could have taken over a team, it probably would have been the Jays, but these are the way things happen. Yeah. So I figure we'll just kind of rip through. Let me see if I can share screen the matchup so maybe people can kind of follow along with what I'm looking at. I'm going to kind of read. We all saw what Jeff did. Jeff spent some solid time in typing up some matchups. I'm not going to read all of his stuff verbatim, but I'm going to kind of rip through what he thought about each one and then kick it to you guys for your thoughts. And then at the end, for everybody watching, if you want to get on, you can. I've got surprise baseball trivia for Duke and Josh. It's a surprise. I told them about it 5 minutes ago, and I thought about it 10 minutes ago. So we'll see. I figure when I get two guys on, maybe that can be something that happens from now on, or maybe it's terrible and it never happens again. But we're going to try it. So Pirates, Rockies, I don't think there's a ton that needs to be said about this. The Rockies were the lowest scoring, I think by quite a bit, playoff team. I'm like the year that shitty NBA team makes the playoffs and they're 10 games under 500, but somebody's got to make it. I was hurt a lot during the year. I'm hurt a lot now, but I think even if I was healthy, the Pirates are not a team that I really had a whole lot of chance against. And Josh, we'll get Duke's thoughts second since he is the Pirates. But Josh, it seems like your projections kind of agreed. I think putting the Rockies at a 0.4% chance to beat the Pirates. Is that correct?
Yes. And I got to say, as I was making the projections, because Fangraphs doesn't fan tracks, baseball, all the fan stuff gets mixed around in my head. But on Fangraphs, there's no easy way to pull the points you scored over the week. So I had to type in every single matchup by hand. And the way I had been calculating the percentage, I was looking at a range of 50 points. And there was a large span of games where I thought the odds for you winning were going to come in at 0 points because you only scored within 50 points one week. And it was only like by 45 points. So if you upset the Pirates this week, I think that it might go down as one of the greatest sports comebacks ever. No offense, Alan, but I think you kind of ran into a juggernaut here. And I did actually simulate the whole playoffs this way, and the Pirates are the favorite to win. So maybe it's no fault of your own. I don't know. You said your team isn't very high scoring. I'm not going to comment on that, but Pirates, I'll toss it over to their manager. Sorry.
It's kind of funny. I actually looked 2 months ago because there was a lot of people kind of mid-season talking about how talking about luck and high scores and low scores and things like that. So I actually was curious a month or two ago about the standard, if it mattered, the teams that were scoring high but also had a small standard deviation week to week, if that mattered as far as wins and losses go, as far as record goes. So I actually I tried really hard to find a place in Fantrax to download the weekly point totals, and it sounds like you couldn't find anything either, Josh.
Nothing.
And I was way too lazy to manually hand jam all those. But something I'm still curious about. Maybe I'll keep a running tally next year. But yeah, my team's definitely been a little sluggish the first 3 days, 3 days into this week. I've had a couple kind of rocky starts. I can't remember who I started the first couple of days. Castillo was good, and then I can't remember my other two starters so far.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I got to know, is that an intended pun when you say Rocky starts? Are you trying to say whoever the Rockies start are not very good? Because that's what I heard.
Well, the Rockies haven't actually started anybody yet. So
we tried. I had Eliser go. I saw the thing next to Eliser yesterday. I was like, "Ooh, I'm getting a start out of him." No, I'm not. I'm just getting his wasted ass pitches and no points for it. And the Eflin got scratched. So I didn't even do the Jeff stuff, but I think it's pretty clear Jeff had the lineup advantage to Pittsburgh, the starting pitching advantage to Pittsburgh, and the relief pitching advantage to Pittsburgh. And Jeff, of course, had the Pirates winning the series. I think that's probably the one we need to spend the least amount of time on. I've rolled over and accepted my fate. I did what I set out to do. I made the playoffs in year one. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't necessarily fun trying to drag this scrap heap to the playoffs, but I made it. I'm happy I made it. And if I'm going to get my ass kicked by somebody, I guess of the guys in the National League, I didn't really want to get beat up by my own dad. I would have been okay losing to Frank, but I'm okay losing to Duke. Yeah, I would have been okay losing to anybody but Joe, I guess. I don't like losing to the Dodgers.
Alan, I had a question for you. And
Sure.
I haven't asked you this offline either, but do you kind of wish that you'd finished in ninth?
I think I've mentioned it a couple times on the Discord, jokingly, man, I wish Dwight would, because Dwight was playing me tough down this stretch. It was me and the Mets, and I was really trying to beat him. And I do, part of me, it's yeah, okay, I could win a few more bucks in the consolation bracket, but like I had been saying on the pods all year, I wanted to make the playoffs in year one, even though it's a pretty arbitrary thing. Are we going to be sitting around as old men and saying, remember year one of the ABL when I squeaked in, and I had a sub 500 team? Maybe we will. I'm still in my home league that I was in as a teenager, so maybe we will. But I wanted to make the playoffs, so I'm happy I did. Yeah. And
I think the tweaks we made to the Constitution, I think finishing 7th or 8th next year will mean a little bit more. But the other side of that coin is that if you had finished in 9th, not only would you have a better chance to win money in the playoffs, but theoretically you could get the number one pick in the draft too.
Yeah, that's what I had said. Is like, damn, man, this is really like me and Gary are kind of really in that tough spot to where, well, I guess the first wild cards too, but they're a little bit better teams than the Rockies and Yankees. But yeah, we don't have the chance to win the console money, and we can't get into the lottery. But you know what? We are in the playoffs, so we get the no, we don't get a pennant. We don't. I don't know what we get. I don't really think we get anything. We just get the WC next to our name. Yes. Going on to the second matchup, we got the Cubs and Dodgers, which is more intriguing than you maybe would have thought it would have been like a month or so ago, like when the Dodgers were really firing on all cylinders and putting up 400 plus a week and showing up in the top 5 hitting and pitching and points per game. The Cubs have made some moves, but even if they didn't, you know, Frank can have a good week. He's played the Pirates tough all year. I think at least a couple of the few Pirates losses are against the Cubs. For Jeff's quick notes, he had the lineup advantage to the Cubs, which, you know, Cubs have spent a lot of money on their lineup. Makes sense. The starting pitcher advantage to the Dodgers and the relief pitching advantage to the Cubs. And Jeff had the Cubs edging out. I think he had him at like a 60%. So a favorite, but a pretty slight favorite. Josh, what did your stuff say about that match?
Yeah, so this was my closest projected matchup. I actually, for the longest time, thought it was going to come out exactly to 50-50, but ended up being like 50.1% in favor of Joe.
Apropos coin flip Joe, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think Blue Jays Mark, not to be confused with me, of course. I think that he mentioned that it was quite ironic that Joe, who's been preaching how the playoffs are coin flipped all season, ends up being the one that's the closest to a true 50-50 coin flip. Now,
which is fun. It's poetic.
I did want to add, so I actually did a little bit of an additional analysis. So if you don't know, one of the things I do every week is I actually project hitters over for SP Streamer. I do basically hitting streamers. We call them streamers, but it's basically waiver wire pickups for the week. But I actually modified my projections to try and fit the format for this league, and then took the key hitters that Jeff had in his write-ups and then put everyone's hitters through my projections. And then I won't go into the exact details, but basically came up with a score to rank everyone's offenses on the week. And the Cubs offense on the week as a whole comes out the second highest rated. It's a distant second from the first place team, which we'll get to eventually. But that's on the week and on the whole. And then for the rest of the week, I actually have them tied for first. I reran the projections tonight because of course, Monday, Tuesday, and most of Wednesday have already passed. But the Cubs offense is quite the juggernaut, and the Dodgers come way more in the middle of the pack, so that definitely is a distinct advantage for the Cubs this week.
Nice. Now, so are you sticking with your initial projection, or have the first few days changed much for you at all?
I want to stick with the initial projection, but I mean, what did the write-up say about the pitchers? I missed that part. I was trying to find my percentages.
So Jeff gave the starting pitching nod to the Dodgers, but the relief pitching nod to the Cubs. And
so that's true. I do remember now. The Cubs probably have, and it's with intention. One of the lesser pitching staffs in the playoffs. They've designed their team that way. So the question is, does their offense make up that much of a gap, even with having the best offense according to my projections for the remainder of the week, tied with a couple other teams? I do not actually think that will be enough to overcome the lack of starting pitching that the Dodgers present. And the game is pretty close right now. Does anyone know how many pitchers the Dodgers have already thrown?
I do not have that in front of me.
I can look here.
I'm terrible about that stuff.
Dodgers have thrown 3, and they have number 4. I don't know who it is, but they have 4 going tonight.
And so you don't know who it is, but okay. So if I'm the Dodgers here, I might be slightly concerned. 14 points is it's obviously not a huge margin to make up, but it is enough to when you've already thrown half your staff, it sounds like.
I didn't refresh, so it's not even updated. It's the Cubs are at 123, so it's actually a little bit bigger gap than it was just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, Joe's actually closed the gap a little bit tonight. He actually doesn't have a starter going tonight. It must be his starter tomorrow's in the lineup.
So this, of course, I don't manage a competent team in this league. So how many points if you're the Dodgers, you're down 14. You have 4 starting pitchers left, presumably on the week. How many are you expecting per pitcher? Is that margin enough to be made up with one pitcher?
Man, I don't know, because he's got guys that could go off, but like not getting a Freddie start. Freddie Peralta start is going to hurt him. I don't know if he's going to get a Marquez this week. He just threw on the 30th, so maybe he would get him on Sunday.
I do think Marquez is supposed to have a 2-start week.
Yeah, could he get another Robbie Ray this week, potentially? That'd probably be the one. Robbie Ray's went off for 27.5 and 3 straight starts. So if Marquez and Ray each went again this week, that could do it. If the Chicago hitting cools off.
Does he go yet this week, or does he still have to pitch?
Let's see.
If he's got Gibson,
through
Ray,
on the 28th.
It really is an interesting matchup between these two. It's so close. It's like the completely opposite strengths here in this matchup. I think if you're the Dodgers, pitchers are just so much more volatile, so I think you're more nervous. Whereas the Cubs, what your offense is going to do. The points you're going to put up. You're just hoping one of the Dodgers starters blows up. And with the way this matchup shaped up, the Dodgers cannot afford one of their pitchers to blow up.
That is true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be really close. I have a vested interest in this matchup because, like you mentioned, Alan, Frank has had my number this year. I think 3 or 4 of I have 7 losses, and 3 or 4 have come to the Cubs.
Which is really weird. Just that seems really weird.
All of his 400-point weeks have come playing against me, I think.
Yeah, he just made, like, nobody else can claim to have beaten a top team as many times as Frank has the Pirates. It's really strange.
And if the Cubs win, then I'll play. Assuming I can make it past the Rockies, I'll play the Cubs next week. So,
Alan, how safe of an assumption do you think that is?
That Duke will be playing one of these teams the next week.
He'll make it past the Rockies. Yeah.
These guys, some of these guys in the Discord, Tony's one of those anything's possible, kind of guys. And I just said, Tony, you just got to look at the numbers, man. Like the Rockies never even put up a 300-point week, and the Pirates average 400, so it just, I don't have the horses, I just don't have them.
Theoretically, you could flip a coin 100 times and it could come up heads 97 times.
Right. It could. Yeah, absolutely. It could. Yeah. And you know what? As the guy that was always kind of talking that way about my own team, a couple weeks ago, I did beat the Dodgers. I don't know how I did it. Everybody I had a healthy week, and I got, I think, 6 starts, and the Dodgers had a bad week, and I did beat the Dodgers, and I tooted my horn about it. But I knew that was kind of the outlier of the expectation when I go into a matchup against you top NL team or top AL teams for that matter. So I think we're all well. I don't know. Did you guys, Josh? You think?
Well, it's interesting because when I broke down this matchup, so sometimes when the teams are close, it's like every week is within a 50-point margin. These two teams had very few of those weeks. It seemed like one of the teams would have blown out the other team quite frequently. The Dodgers primarily for most of the season, and the way that it's weighted, the Cubs really just for the last 3 weeks have done much better than the Dodgers. So they're catching the Dodgers at a good time. But because of that, I thought that by this point in the week, we might be able to see who's clearly going to win. But it seems like they actually are playing closer to that 50-50 projection that we thought it might be. But I've got to stick with my original projections. You always, if you're the math guy, you have to trust the numbers. Even though my eyes right now are telling me the Cubs are gonna squeak out a victory.
Well, that wasn't the original numbers like 60% Cubs?
It was 50.1% Dodgers.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
So am I really even siding with my numbers? I don't know. At that point, it's probably not accurate enough. But
and Duke, what do you think? What do you think this matchup is ultimately going to be?
I think the Dodgers they kind of, I don't want to say they backed into the playoffs, but like Josh mentioned, they've kind of fallen off from where they were even a month ago. And the Cubs have done the opposite. They've been really good. I think he added a couple bats leading up to the trade deadline to make his ridiculous offense even more ridiculous. So, and I want to say he might have added a couple SPs as well, which I don't think he had any at one point like a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
So I think the Dodgers' strength this year has been their depth, and so I think Joe's really going to have to lean on that depth over the next 4 days to overcome the Cubs. I think Jeff's projection was pretty accurate. I think the Cubs have a slight advantage, and that's who I would pick to win.
Well, he left. It shows you the faith or lack of that Frank has. He left Yelich on the bench tonight in favor of either Derek Hill. Well, Hill's the only center fielder he had. So, but he left Yelich on the bench, and those bats that you had said he did grab Corey Seager right near the end of the deadline to shore up that playoff push, and Mike Trout, that he's probably not going to get anything out of, but Frank went for it. He made no. Yeah,
he'll probably get Trout next week when he faces me. He'll put up the first 500 point. Has there been a 500 point week in a 7-day week? He'll
not a single scoring week. No, not a regular scoring week. I don't even know if we had one in one of the week and a half weeks. 500, I think, has not been achieved yet.
I think we might
486. Maybe, yeah. I don't recall. I should know this. I talk about it every week, but the numbers tend to mix together. So, yeah, Frank. He was loud and clear for a while now about how he was going for it. He obviously has no picks for the next 2 years. If he gets bounced in the first round, it's going to be looked at as a pretty colossal failure. I don't mean that to deride Frank personally at all, but when you go for it as much as he has, you really want to at least make it past the first round and show that maybe that experiment, the heavy reliever experiments and heavy bat experiment can work. He's not going to be able to do the same thing with salary next year, but him and John.
I have one correction, Alan. He actually doesn't have any picks the next 3 years.
Oh, okay. So
now if I'm a
go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, if I'm a Cubs fan, I see all the deadline acquisitions we made, the form we're in recently. We seem to be the one team that has the Pirates numbers. I think I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling like this is the title contender. I'm not even considering these options of like blowing out early in the playoffs. I think if you're a Cubs fan, this is the brand of baseball you've come to embrace. We don't care about picks. We don't care about those top name prospects. We care about winning, and we care about winning now. We'll figure out the future later, and they've done exactly that, and they've kind of crushed it.
That is true.
I could see the Cubs winning the whole thing. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. And maybe halfway through the season or a little before, it was kind of Frank had made some deals, and this might have even been before you got here, Josh. Frank had made some deals that left people scratching their heads a little bit, but he, unlike Tony, who claims he has an ultimate plan in mind, but then completely flips his roster, within 3 days of saying that, Frank stuck to what he said this entire time, that he was going for it. He did change up a little bit. He wanted to acquire starting pitching, and then he went for that. I'm gonna go ahead and zig and go for heavy relief pitching. He was seeing some of the points that I think Blue Jays Mark was getting out of his relievers, and thought that maybe guys weren't exploiting that relief market, and that maybe he could be the first one to do that. And then he kind of got off of that. He still has Hader and Hendricks, but he did go out and get Zach Gallen from me, and he did try to acquire at least some starting pitching so that he wasn't going completely naked into the playoffs with no starters. But
I'll just add one last comment, then we can move on to the other. The guy loves to trade, but if you're the Cubs, and the way you've built your lineup, you got to love how it's built on bats, because bats are so consistent and safe compared to pitching. The one thing is, in a format like this in the playoffs, do you need more upside? Do you need to have the luck of a 2-start week from someone riding well, like Robbie Ray, who seems to have run into this week? Are you able to consistently just put up points with bats and not run into a team that happens to have their pitchers go off one week? Is it a team that's built well for the regular season? I think absolutely. I'm curious to see if it plays well in the playoff format.
Because it's still head-to-head scheduling, and it's still 1 week playoffs. So, those bats all go cold at once, and you're left holding an empty sack, especially if you're the Cubs with no picks or anything going for it. And again, that's not to say he can't acquire some, or that he won't acquire some, or, that his team's dead in the water next year. And I don't think that by any means, but we have guys that have dozens of picks in the next 2 years, and then we have guys with 0. So yeah, let's move on to the Marlins Phils, and to get at what Jeff had thought really quick, it was kind of not a Pittsburgh over Rockies sweep, but he did call the lineup, the rotation, and the relievers all for the Phillies, and then of course ultimately the Phillies beating the Marlins. This is a matchup that looked a lot different. It looked a lot different for the Marlins right before the deadline, of course, but maybe a month or so ago, before both of these guys kind of went into the half sell modes that they did, I think I still would have had the Phils probably in all 3 of those areas. I would have picked the Phils even before the Soto, trade and stuff. So I think, I know these guys have been going back and forth a bit lately on the Discord, but I don't think it's too mean-spirited. But it's good to see these guys, division rivals, really really butting heads and then meeting in the first round of the playoffs the way they are. I enjoy it. I think they both enjoy it, but I agree with Jeff that it's probably going to be a Phillies matchup. Duke, let's go with you first. We'll let you speak first on this one. What do you think about Philly, Miami?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I would definitely pick the Phillies. I'm not surprised the Phillies are winning by 50 or so points. Coming up on the midway point of the week. I think Tony's our only listener right now. So
there's somebody else. It says 2. There's somebody else lurking. It's probably okay. Adam, if I had to guess.
So we have the 2 guys that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it may very well be.
Yeah, I think it'll be the Phillies. Tony made a push right at the deadline to try to, give himself a little boost going into the playoffs, and I think he definitely made his team better, at least for this season. But I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome Adams. I was just looking at Adams' roster, and it's obviously not as good as it was a month and a half ago before he dumped inexplicitly. But you've talked about it on the pod before, Alan. His team probably is better for the long term, and he's probably still will win $30 this week. So I can understand why he did it, but that's not going to stop me from roasting him.
If I was Adam, I would have went not necessarily the Frank route and traded all my picks away, but I think I would have been more in the I'm going for it this year. I think the Phillies at the time when they were fully put together, it was a good looking team. He was getting subpar production from some guys like Biggio and guys like that. He was never really hitting on all cylinders. He never really got that chance, but you could have easily seen that outcome for that Phillies team when he had all those names on there.
Yeah, I think kind of just the week before he made those trades, he put up the highest point total in the entire league.
He crushed it. He absolutely crushed it. He was everywhere in the top 5. He was all over the place.
Yeah, so he had a great team. If in my opinion, I think he could have made some smaller moves to set himself up for the future without completely not to say that he couldn't win a couple games in the playoffs, but I think it's fair to say that the Phillies aren't expected to go too far in the playoffs based on their current roster. Not to say they couldn't, but it would be a surprise if they did. And I think he could have had a much better playoff team without and still made his team better for the future without completely giving up on the season.
I agree. What'd your stuff say about that matchup, Josh?
Yeah, so I have this matchup projected in Adam's favor, the Phillies' favor, at the third most lopsided matchup of the week, 86.3% in favor of the Phillies. Really, ever since the Marlins sold, when it's hard to pinpoint the exact time, if we're being honest, but after the dump proclamation, they really haven't been putting up the totals they once were in the season. But you have to kind of ask yourself, the Marlins fans, do they really even care? Their brand of baseball is making trades. They don't care if those trades make the team better or worse. They just like making trades. And this is the one time of year where you can't make any trades. So I'm not even sure they're Marlin fans watching this matchup, invested in this matchup. I'm not sure they really care. They'll tune back in when trades are allowed again. So but I'll also just add one thing actually in favor of the Marlins here. If we're looking at my hitting projections for the full week, the Phillies I had them as the 5th best projected team on the week, the Marlins 15th. But if we run the numbers again for the rest of the week, the Phillies come in at only 10th best while the Marlins are 13th. So it seems like a lot of what the Phillies firepower was going to be able to do this week was going to happen early. So that it's not surprising to see them out to this 50-point lead. But now it should be when we see the teams a little more even. Now the question is, can variance go the Marlins' way, and can variance even pick up 50 points in the week as they're kind of more even, at least on the hitting front moving forward?
And the Phillies are deep enough to where they're not probably going to have too many days with like not very many guys playing. So that's a lot of ground for this Marlins team to make up. Like Tony had weeks where he had put up mid 300s for multiple, low to mid 300s, multiple weeks in a row. Like this team is so much different than. I mean, it seems to be so much different than what it was just a week before. And early on in the year, Tony had made the point that he was going to treat trades like a waiver wire, essentially, that was how he was going to turn over his team. But, and I know you are watching, Tony. I know you're the one watching. And I'm not telling you anything that I haven't told you before, and clearly I'm not the only one that notices or whatever, but sometimes I think you trade just to trade. I think, the Marlins, they self-impose these deadlines on moving these players, and then he wants to move them, I think, just for the sake of saying that he would, even if it's not the kind of deal that he likes right away. But he wants to make that trade because he said, here's the deadline, get your offers in. I'm going to move them at 12 o'clock tomorrow or whatever. And he sticks to his word. I'll give you that, Tony. You are a man of your word. But I do think that a lot of, I'm not going to put a percentage on it. You made a lot of deals that were detrimental to your team. And yes, you came back and then made another one that maybe made that last one look a little better or a little more palatable. But I don't know what you plan to do with the Marlins. You say you might keep like a $16. Who the hell was it earlier in the Discord? Tommy Pham. Like that seems like the last kind of guy that you would keep, just judging by how you've operated your team this entire first year. Tommy Pham seems like a guy that would not be a Marlin next year. But today, that's one of the few guys he was talking about actually having some interest in keeping. So I don't know what to expect from the Marlins going forward, but I do expect them to lose in round 1 of the playoffs.
Do we know the seeds of these teams? Is it a 3 seed for the Phillies and a 6 seed for the Marlins?
Yeah.
So is it possible then, Duke, you actually could end up playing the Marlins should they win this game?
It's possible, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
if the Cubs lose and the Marlins win, I would play the Marlins.
That could mean 99.6% chances to win in a row here for Duke.
Assuming I can get by the Rockies.
Just coast. You could not coast to the championship any easier. Like, we're laying out a path where the Pirates can just kind of like those late 90s, early 2000s Joe Torre Yankees, where he could have just like closed his eyes and filled out the lineup card and won the World Series. That's the Pirates.
We are giving Tony a lot of crap here, and I'm curious if he's saying anything. So I'm sure he's watching, but I will say that we might not know what he's doing, but we're all watching. We're all interested what's going to happen next with the Marlins. So
True.
He's got eyes on his team, which is more than I can say for the Giants. I don't think anyone can say any player I have other than the two pitchers everyone wants. But so I've got to take some notes, figure out how Tony's managed to do that, make people interested in a fantasy baseball team like that.
Tony, I don't know if enjoys the criticism is the right word, but Tony can. Well, he'll accept criticism. I don't know if he takes it very well sometimes, but he likes, that everybody's talking about the Marlins. And
it seems to me that he takes it, pins it on a wall, and then proves everyone wrong and wins himself some pizza.
That's what he was doing
kind of the
early in the year,
has.
man. Yeah, that's what he was doing early in the year. Every week it was, how the hell are the Marlins winning again? They're going to go 2-1. They're going to go 3-0. Like, who the fuck are these guys in his lineup? Like, he confounded expectations, and then he blew it all up. That was the thing. Like, dude, you've been stuffing it into everybody all year when we've all been saying, oh, Tony made another trade. Look, he just made his team worse. And then he'd go out and he'd win 2 or 3 games. And then he was the first guy to win the pizza bet. He won the pizza bet with Mark, and he really reveled in that. And then he blew it all up. I don't know. It's been hotly debated.
He said, much love. I can take the criticism. There will be some off-season reflection. So
he made it further than my team. So
the one thing about the Marlins' future, they have a ton of crappy draft picks, and they're going to have a ton of money to spend in the draft. Unless
that was always his plan.
Unless he keeps a bunch of Tommy Phams, which might not be advisable. But
I don't even think he has a bunch of Tommy Phams. It's surprising at all for him to have a double-digit player, and he's not going to. He didn't even keep Robles. So,
we still have a whole October trading period, Alan.
Yeah, and his plan always, as he said, was to go into the auction with a lot of money. I don't know if Tony's necessarily thinking about the other teams that are going to have a lot of money. I don't know if he's thinking that far ahead, but I guess I haven't asked him. I'm sure he would tell me if I did, but I don't know who I think the Marlins targets are going to be. I couldn't tell you who Tony's favorite player is outside David Bodie or some other scrub on the Cubs. That
Victor Robles.
Is not going to justify a big bid, or what we consider a big bid for Tony anyway. So that's enough of Phillies Marlins. Let's get this last NL matchup out of the way, and it's the one that Jeff would have wrote about his own team a little bit, and he was actually, I don't know if he was down on his own team. The Padres and the Cards, which has turned out to be a pretty interesting matchup. Were getting pretty beat up right around the start of the playoffs, and it's kind of continued with Alex Wood going down, and it sounds like he's not doing too good. He's not going to snap back and start tomorrow or anything. He's got fever and chills, and he's still locked in his hotel room. So you can say,
sorry, which one of them has Wood?
This is the Pods.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So he's not going to get a Jack Flaherty start. He's not going to get an Alex Wood start. Darvish was pretty bad yesterday against a team that you would expect him to dominate. He got beat up a little bit by the D-backs. And yet the Padres are still actually looking pretty good, at least right now, in this matchup. Jeff had given the lineup advantage to the Pods, which is probably what's carrying him right now. He had called the starting pitching matchup a draw with maybe a slight edge to the Cards. I think we can probably definitively give the Cards that edge now. And he gave the relief pitching edge to the Cards, but he did predict the Padres to beat him in round one. And I think that's more Jeff being down on all the injuries that had kind of stacked up on him at once rather than being down on his actual team. Josh, if I recall correctly, was that the matchup that had like 60.5% in favor of the Pods?
I actually had it 60.5 in favor of the Cardinals. I think
Cards, okay.
This shows a little bit of the limitations of the method I used. If all the injuries for the Cardinals kind of stacked up at the last second here, that wouldn't have been caught much in the method I used. So I am looking at this now, and it seems like the uphill battle here for the Cardinals is going to be quite tough. Now, I will say, you mentioned the Padres. You think their hitters might be carrying them here a little bit this week. I only have them projected on the week. It's the 13th best. It's not really that good. So I should say the fourth worst. I do have the Cardinals projected worse. And for their, it's very similar when you factor in the days that have already happened. So if there was ever a week when that Padres offense was going to be limited and there's never a week that Jeff could overcome those injuries, it would be a week when the Padres staff's a little banged up, not performing top notch, and their hitters don't have the best matchups or playing in the best stadiums. I didn't dig into the projections too closely to see why they're projecting so lowly for them. But I mean, if you're the Cardinals, you think, okay, we have a chance this week. But then to be at this point in the week and only have 62 points while the Padres have 110, you can't help but feel a little disappointed. Does that discourage the rest of the team from kind of, putting in full effort? Do they do something similar to, the Boston Red Sox where they stop trying, then they all get COVID, and then, jettison their fans onto other teams like the Blue Jays? I don't know. But I think if this would be a week the Cardinals could pull off the what it seems to be an upset here, but it's off to a rough start, that's for sure.
And man, the Cardinals all year long had really been motoring. Like he came out of the All-Star break a little slow. If you watch the week-to-week pods, you would see the Cardinals kind of dipping. He was losing fractions of point per game on the season. He was at 4.25. He'd go down to 4.23. He'd go down to 4.19. Like you could see the Cardinals kind of tailing off a little bit. Then he started to fire it back up, and then bam, like a lot of guys got hurt. And I think we're seeing that in round one. Duke, not so much what do you think right now, but what did you think coming into Monday about this matchup?
I thought it could have gone either way. I do think, Jeff made that trade right at the trade deadline. I think it was JD, and I think I want to say there was a pitcher too that he traded for
Kimbrel, I believe.
Oh, was it Kimbrel? Yeah. Who's a keeper for one of the hottest rising prospects right now. So I think ultimately that's probably a good trade for Jeff long term, but I think it probably does hurt him a bit in this matchup. And if Kimbrel has a couple of nice outings this week and JD hits a bomb or two, then and that's the difference between winning or losing. I think Jeff might regret that trade, but I think the big thing with this matchup is I honestly don't think the 50 or so point difference right now is that big of a deal. I think Jeff is going to close the gap quite a bit in the next couple of days. He's got a bunch of pretty good pitchers still to go this week. It looks like, is it Urquidy? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Urquidy's off the IL. He's going to pitch. He's got Framber Valdez. He's got Stroman. I can't remember. There's one or two other pretty good pitchers he's got scheduled still to pitch this week. And the Padres don't have much. I mean, I think Darvish got lit up tonight.
Negative.
And
he took a negative.
Yeah, and he's got.
So it's almost like getting a bonus start for Jeff. Sorry.
Yeah, and he's got Manaea, who's been pretty rough lately against the Blue Jays. And then I think he has Charlie Morton, and so he has one other one on Sunday. That's pretty decent, but this one I think is going to come down to the pitching over the weekend.
I know Morton's a bit of a vet, so it might not bother him as much, but I do know the Braves are playing in cores this week. So that's another one that's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
But so it does like, and again, I just want to reiterate the Padres, if we're saying their strength is their offense, this is a week when their offense is projecting below league average. So this is the Cardinals' chance. Maybe like I trust Duke, the arguably the best team here, and he hasn't even had to sell his soul to the devil to get such a good team like we've seen some of these other teams do. I'll trust his opinion here. I'll stick with my projections. Say the Cardinals still have a chance.
If Paul Goldschmidt keeps hitting the way he's been hitting, that's going to be what decides it. I mean, that's a big chunk of what the Padres scored today was just, if you take away Goldie today, take away the 15 points, and that matchup looks a lot closer. Yeah, 15 and a half, I think, just out of Goldie.
Yeah, Pivetta, I think Pivetta is the other guy that Padres are going.
Yep.
The Red Sox have not confirmed their Sunday starter yet, but you got to think it's got to be Pivetta, right?
Yeah.
I was hoping it would be a Seabold.
You and Frank. I think Frank was the guy calling for that.
The Red Sox. I don't know what I'm saying. What Red Sox?
Josh,
you don't. Yeah, you're hoping you don't like the Red Sox.
Josh texted me like immediately after he claimed Seabold in ABL. He's like, "Hey, did you see I got the best pitching prospect in baseball?"
Did you know that?
I think he's the Sox top prospect. No cap.
He's definitely top 10, but and that is a top 10 system too, I guess.
Yeah,
So we've seen. Yeah. All right, so that's the NL. Nothing too crazy. I don't think we've seen. I think that Cubs-Dodgers matchup is probably right now the most intriguing. Heading into the weekend and just looking at where it's at right now, it's obviously the closest matchup, but I think it probably looks like it's going to shape up to remain the closest matchup. I don't think we're going to have any crazy upsets. Nobody's calling for a crazy upset. A pretty straight up looking National League. Now next week may look quite a bit different, but any final words on this NL first round?
I was just going to say I think Cubs beating the Dodgers technically would be an upset just based on
That's fair.
Where they ended the season, and especially since Frank technically based on the numbers has the advantage. I think that one should be pretty interesting.
Would we see it that way if Frank had owned a team in the NL East, and if Frank had dominated the East, would we see it as an upset if the Cubs beat the Dodgers?
Probably not. That's a good point. I think if Frank was in the East, he probably would have won that division and wouldn't be playing the Dodgers this week.
I think Duke finally just admitted his team's a powerhouse.
Right. Yeah.
If they didn't have to play me, I guess
he was in the Central. Yeah. If he didn't have to play me and Jeff. Yeah. I mean, really, the NL Central, man. If you look at the scoring, even the Reds and the Brewers really came on towards the end of the year. Lenny was putting up 200 plus when he really hadn't been for most of the season, and the Brewers really came on and were putting up low to mid 200s pretty consistently, which was a far cry from what they were doing before Zach took them over. That Central is not getting easier; it's getting more difficult, and maybe that's fun for some.
I'm pretty annoyed I'm in that division, and I'm pretty annoyed that we added Josh, Steven, and
we brought in some guys that know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm super
us Canadians, we are above the U.S. on the map for a reason. We know a lot.
Geography knows, yeah. All right, let's get over to the AL here, and we have, I think, to me, a couple really three of these matchups. The one other than the Tigers-Yankees, which right now is actually really close. But I think personally the Tigers are going to end up beating the Yankees. But man, I mean, you look at it now, it's quite close. But the other three matchups in the AL, I find terribly interesting. I can't wait to get to all of those. But let's start with the Yankees and the Tigers since that's the first one on here. The quick Jeff stuff while he's, I think he's probably drunk on a plane about now on his $25 airport beers. He had the lineup advantage going to the Tigers, and then he actually had a draw in both the starting pitching and relief pitching for the Tigers-Yankees. So he must have a lot of faith in those Tigers bats, and with every reason. The Tiger lineup is fantastic. It's deep. It's got big names. It's got high dollar guys. I think I'm not stepping out of line, to say that everybody would predict the Tigers. But Josh, were your projections as heavy on the Tigers as they were, say, on the Pirates facing the other wildcard 2 team?
Not quite that heavy, but it was a 91.1% in favor of the Tigers, which is the second largest margin we saw. Like you said, the Tigers have an insane offense. On the week, I have them scored at a positive 13. The next closest is a positive 7. So they almost are doubling up the next best offense this week, which is the Cubs. Now, for the rest of the week, I have them tied for first at a score of 8. So maybe not quite as much production here down the stretch. They're tied with the Cubs and the Rays, actually. But the Yankees, on the other hand, I actually have projected their offense as a positive on the week as well at 6 overall. But for the rest of the week, that's all the way down to a negative 7. And so I think like this was going to be the time the Yankees were going to keep it close. And I think that from this point forward, the Tigers might just steamroll them with that offense. I think the gap between their two offenses is going to be that much more obvious down the stretch. And good for the Yankees, honestly, that they have the pitching to match with the Tigers. But I think the offense is going to be the difference maker. And they need it to be tied at this point if they wanted a shot at winning.
That's fair. What do you say, Duke?
I'm looking at the pitchers that they have left right now. And
yeah, that's true. That's probably where we should have started.
Real quick, I do want to give props to the Yankees because, sorry, Duke, I don't mean to cut you off, but Gary was in a kind of the same position I was going down the stretch in that he was fending off a team that had kind of come out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere, to be nipping at his heels, and that was the A's in the American League. And I don't know if it was that the A's had suddenly gotten healthy. I know that they dealt with a lot of injuries, but they were looking like if they had had a week of an 0-3 Yankee week and a 3-0 A's week, which seems like a big ask, but Gary had, I think, put together 2 straight 1-2 weeks at one point, like really, in the second half leading up to the playoffs. The A's, they had a crack open in the door, but he kind of like the Mets, they just didn't grab it that same way. So for Gary to be kind of squeaking in like he did and as close to the Tigers as he is now, I agree with Josh that it's fairly impressive. Props to Gary. Go ahead, Duke. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just honestly, neither one really has, I think, an advantage with the pitchers they have left, which, kind of like Josh was saying, I think that's going to give the Tigers the overall advantage with their hitters. Looks like Gary has Eovaldi with the pretty favorable matchup against Cleveland on Friday. And then I'm assuming, I think he has 3 starts left, so I'm assuming he's going to roll with Cease against Kansas City and Davies against the Pirates on Sunday. So I'm not sure that that's going to be enough to, the Tigers don't have great pitching the rest of the week, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to overcome the Tigers offense.
I think that's a fair assessment. And that's kind of, what Jeff had said too. He gave him a draw in both aspects of the pitching, but that Tiger lineup is going to be a tough one for anybody to overcome if he even gets average pitching. Kind of like Josh had said, the bats are the guys that you're relying on for consistency and reliability. And that seems to be kind of what the Tigers have done all year. They've just been kind of like the Pirates, amazingly consistent. The Dodgers have had up and down weeks. The Cardinals have had up and down weeks. The White Sox are really heavy. We'll get to them. They're really relying on their pitching. But when you think about consistent teams that where they're going to be, you can pencil them in. It's really been the Tigers and the Pirates. It's not a surprise to see both of those guys as the 1 seeds and doing what they're doing in the first round. Maybe the Tigers have a little bit tougher first round matchup with the Yankees, but I believe Gary also snuck in with a sub. Was he sub 500 or was he 500 exactly? I think
he
might have been like
right at 500.
Yeah,
I think
he wasn't quite as bad as me. But yeah, so I think we're all
28 and 28.
Oh, so he was exactly 500. So yeah, Gary, hat tip to Gary. He's not very active in the Discord. He pops in every so often. He just kind of sat back and didn't make a ton of moves that I recall. I don't recall any big Yankees trades. He's kind of drafted his team and rode it to where it's at, and he's trying to take down a giant in the first round.
I mean, selfishly, I hope he does.
Yeah, right. You'd rather eventually potentially meet up with the Yankees than the Tigers, sure.
Duke, do I hear you are already overlooking all your other opponents for the championship match? trying to get some bulletin board material here,
just in case. But I think the other point is worth mentioning is the payroll for the Yankees is like $250, and the payroll for the Tigers is $600. So that is.
It's going to be interesting to see what John does going forward. I haven't tried to project who I think he's going to contract and how much money I think the Tigers might have in the auction. Obviously, he's going to have to cut, like 2 full teams worth of salary to get down to even a workable number, come cut time. So
I'm pretty excited I was going to say, I'm pretty excited as a team of mostly $1 players to, receive that nice fat check from the Tigers for going way over the luxury tax here.
Yeah, nice little profit sharing. Yeah. And look no further than Detroit for some players, that you can be damn sure are going to be in the auction. So
it's going to be like the check those out. Marlin.
Yeah. Win. And then boom, they're totally irrelevant. Now John's got got some good youth as well. He's not devoid of nice prospects on that team either.
He did just trade arguably his top prospect in Josh Lowe to one of the new owners. I believe it was Steven on the Orioles.
Yes,
he did get a nice package in return, in my opinion. I think he got a first-round pick and Robbie Grossman at $1. But
I tried to get Grossman, but I did not have the necessary pieces. But a big OBP guy like that for $1 in a points league, gotta love it. Let's move on to
Steven actually sent me an offer the same time for Grossman that I didn't see, and I probably would have accepted, but thinking back on it, I'm glad I didn't see it. Because then I wouldn't have Nick Gonzalez on my team anymore.
Interesting. Be a good what if maybe later.
Yeah,
I absolutely despise your team, Duke. There's not a single player on that team that I'm like, that player sucks.
Right? He's going to be the Yankees, man. He's going to be a dynasty. Like he really is. He's the Pirates are going nowhere.
I swear I'm always like, who has Cade Cavalli again? Oh, Duke.
Next type in the guy's name. Oh, fucking Pittsburgh. Yeah, of course it is.
Yep.
Yeah, how? Like how? Yeah. I wish I would have paid more attention. Like I was so wrapped up in, this being my first 30-teamer and this being my first dynasty. I was trying to pay all attention to what I was trying to do. I should have been like, well, how about the guy that put this fucking thing together? He probably knows what he's doing a little bit, right? Maybe I should pay attention to what this guy's doing. And I didn't. And now, you see where I am and you see where he is. But, whatever. That's a story for another time, how I screwed up the auction. The next AL matchup, I want
to just to add on to that. I think with this league, the way it's set up, I think it's going to be really easy to rebuild quickly. I don't think it's going to be like 3 years to rebuild a team if you screwed something up. So
I'll break some news here, but the Giants are eyeing 2022 as a year that we can compete for the playoffs. However, if there are some reasons that the players in the auctions would still be going at slightly too high prices, if that's the case, we might shift our focus to 2023. But I think it's possible. I'll just say that from my perspective, with a lot of teams being willing to trade, especially, it's definitely possible.
I agree.
I think it's going to be pretty quick that the Diamondbacks and the Giants are kind of
The
turning the
Diamondbacks are a
West
problem.
into the NL West is very quickly going to be like NL Central 1B. Like that's going to be a tough competitive division. It's going to look a little more like the AL looked this year with the East and the Central. Like, and really the West. I mean, the AL was just good. Everybody in the AL was pretty good. Like the Angels were surprisingly good, I think, at least. And I think the Giants and the D-backs are like really going to surprise some people very soon. Like I said, if the season was a few weeks longer, the D-backs were probably going to pass me as the second wild card in the NL. Like he was really putting together some strong weeks and was beating legitimate teams there towards the end and getting healthy, especially with Sale coming back. And he still had guys that he wasn't going to get back. I think he has Severino. So guys that maybe he was counting on getting back for the second half and still didn't, and he was still putting up nice points. Okay, now finally, next matchup in the AL. It's the Twins and the Mariners, which is right now a slugfest, and one that we probably thought was going to be a slugfest. The Twins had really come on recently with at least one 410-point week towards the end of the season, and he might have been back-to-back 400-point weeks. Jeff, in his write-ups, had given the lineup advantage to the Mariners. He said that the starting pitching was a draw and that the relief pitching nod went to the Twins. Jeff did pick the Mariners, but I don't think it was by a huge margin or anything. Me personally, man, I don't know. Looking at it in retrospect, if we were talking about this Monday, I probably do, but I probably also agree with the Mariners. But Seth has been quite vocal about his pitching not quite being what he thought it was going to be thus far. Duke, what did you think on Monday, and what do you think now?
Man, I don't know about this one. Like I remember back before the season started, the Mariners were kind of the initial pick for the favorite going into the season. Even before the season started, he was definitely going more win now. And he still has some nice prospects, and he did then, and he does now. But he was definitely one of the first teams to really start taking on a bunch of salary and payroll. And I think it served him well. He had a really good season. And the Twins, a little bit different, kind of started off slower, and then as the season progressed, kept getting better and better and better, and making, bringing in more players and taking on more payroll as the season progressed. And I think the momentum is on the side of the Twins going into the playoffs. Obviously, right now it's the closest matchup of all the matchups. Yeah. I'm trying to pull up the pitching right now, but to see what they have left. But I'd probably give the slight edge to the Twins without looking at the pitching, just based on the momentum and how they were scoring coming into the playoffs.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it's like less than a point right now. I didn't realize it was that close. Holy crap. A big minus 10 for Jay Happ out of the Mariners today, but he also gets a minus 1.5 out of Wade Miley for the Twins. So both guys getting hit with a minus, like just when you think, okay, well here's my chance to make up some ground, they both have a starter take minus points, one quite a bit more than the other. But yeah, that's got to be frustrating. I don't recall, Josh, what you had said about this matchup initially.
So I actually have this projected as a 55.2% in favor of the Twins. And I think that has a lot to do with what Duke was saying. The Twins have come on very strong lately. The Twins as a 7 seed, I was shocked to see that. But when I simulated the whole playoffs, have them projected to win their next matchup as well. That's how good of form they've been in recently. Now, the one thing they do have going against them is when I ran the numbers on those key hitters Jeff laid out, when I ran my projections, they scored as the second lowest on the whole week. And from this point forward, they're scoring as the lowest projected offense, at least if we're focusing on those key players. So to have someone, even when your opponent puts up a -10 with J.A. Happ, to have your own pitcher and Wade Miley go negative is really something you don't want to see if you're a Twins fan. And I don't want to take away from the Twins today, because I think they made up quite a deficit today already. So it's a huge win of a day if you're the Twins, but you really don't want to be seeing any of your pitchers going negative in a week where your hitters do not have the best matchups as far as the pitchers they're supposed to be facing in the stadiums they're playing in.
And Miley's been so good too. Like Miley's been so uncharacteristically good, with like a sub 2.5 ERA, like by now. Like to have him step up and not only be not what he's been, but to take a negative has got to be just a giant disappointment. Like you just said, that's rough. But I think the Twins can't overcome it, especially with the score the way it is now. It's not something that he can't get over. This is going to be a close one, like down to the end.
Yeah, so I just looked at the pitching, and the Twins have already used 5 starters, but they have Montas, and I missed the matchup who it was against, and then they have, assuming there's no postponements or something or anything like that, they have Buehler on Sunday. And yeah, so that could be huge for the Twins. And then the Mariners, they've only had 2 starts, but they only have 3 left. And they have Zach Thompson at the Mets, Rich Hill at the Nats, and again, this is another one. This is one that might get pushed back for the postponements, but they have Zach Wheeler on Sunday against Miami. So yeah, this one could be really, really close.
It's probably going to come down to if they get those ace pitchers of theirs to pitch.
Yeah. Wow. And it has been a rough week for Seth. I mean, just looking at he gets Lance Lynn, ends up injured. Ryu did not have – he has not been great lately, but obviously you're hoping for better than 11 points out of him. Just been kind of a disappointing overall week. He takes the giant negative from Happ. If there was a week to be having a –
I was going to say, I'd love to be having a disappointing week where I believe he's the 3rd highest scorer right now. So.
Right, where he already has 135 points. Yeah, I hear you. But for him, and Seth is not – Seth's on the Discord a lot and everything, but he's a pretty laid-back dude, and he was very upset, throwing around obscenities that you're probably more likely to see come out of my mouth or whatever than his typically. So I
have to interrupt real quick for breaking news. Allen's boy, his future of his offense, Jarren Duran, just hit a RBI single to take the lead in the 9th for the Red Sox, and we might be seeing the death of Blue Jays Josh tonight if this result should hold. So stay tuned.
Allegiance can switch that quick. Wow. I don't think I remember if you guys said, what did you guys land on for this matchup? I don't remember what either one of you said already.
I think it's a toss-up
because of this one's going to be very close just because the Twins came in firing on all cylinders into the playoffs. I'm gonna lean Twins.
Yeah, I hate to give I'm totally blanking on the word, but I think for the Twins, it's going to come down to, does he get that start in from Buehler, and does the Mariners get their start in from Wheeler? It seems like it's probably the whole matchup, it seems crazy. A whole season of so many games comes down to maybe one pitcher's outing, but I think it might in this case.
That's going to be fun. If they both go on Sunday and it's as close as it is now, those guys are going to be glued to their phone or their TV, whatever it is. That's going to be great for those guys.
That's got to be what you're rooting for too. You don't want to see someone win because the other pitcher doesn't end up going because of all the shuffling going on right now.
Some kind of COVID bullshit or something, and we could have had like a legitimate great matchup. Nobody can. I don't know. The injury, the Lance Lynn injury is big. I don't know if he was. Did he come out of his start early and not throw his customary, 7 innings or whatever? So he lost some points on that start, obviously. And I don't know if Seth was going to get another one out of him this week, but assuming say Seth wins and he doesn't get a start out of Lynn next week, like that still looms large for him and is going to be a big injury going forward, at least for the rest of the playoffs. But, talk about another team just getting kind of smacked with an injury to a guy that had been pretty durable. Lance Lynn is like, he's a big beefy guy. He throws all fastballs all the time and has been a picture of like resiliency these last few years. And then of course gets hurt for, not just Seth's playoffs, a lot of teams playoffs right now, but Seth's the only one we care about. So pretty disappointing and frustrating if you're Seth, but still has a chance. I think this is like we've said, is going to be really close all the way down to the end. Next we are looking at, now I swear it says Toronto Blue Jays, Tampa Bay Rays. This is not actually Josh's team, as much as he may want to believe it. This is Blue Jays Mark, who, if you listen to Mark, he has some of the worst luck and runs below expectation, maybe more than anybody you've ever met. But then you look at his team, and the Blue Jays actually look pretty damn good. So it's kind of hard to reconcile what you might see and what you might see on paper. The Jays look really good. Of course, the Rays look really good this week. Jeff had the lineup advantage for the Rays, but then the pitching, both starting and relief, for the Jays. And Jeff thinks that is going to be a little bit too much for the Rays to overcome. He did have the matchup down for the Jays. I don't think by a huge margin, but what did the Josh predictor say for the Blue Jays coming into the week?
I had the Jays projected for 67.2% chance at victory. Now, that was sorry, something weird just happened with my mic. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that was weird. Maybe it was just a thing on my screen. 67.2% chance. Now, that was before I looked at I ran the numbers on the hitters, and the Rays offense projects extremely well this week, but it's kind of top heavy. Now, the top guy on the week, actually, out of everyone, was Trevor Story. He projected the highest. He double dongs on Monday. And the Blue Jays are able to fend that off. So when the top projected guy hits 2 home runs, that's going to be the most he's probably going to be able to do all week. You're the Blue Jays, you're able to fend that off. I'm feeling pretty good, even if the margin's too close for comfort. Now, on top of that, another guy that's looking good, at least for the remainder of the week, is Pete Alonso, because I believe the Mets still have 5 games to play. They have a doubleheader. Thursday, Friday. Yeah, so 4 games, all 4 days, but then one of those days is a doubleheader. So Pete Alonso projects pretty well for the Rays. The other guy that projects really high is the Braves are going into 4 games in Coors Field is Ozzie Albies. Now, he recently got injured, so I think the Rays' success really is going to pivot around the health of Albies. I think I saw the x-rays came back negative, but he's not in the lineup tonight. How quickly can he get him back? Because if he doesn't have him, who's supposed to be one of his key contributors for the Rays this week, I don't think they're going to stand a chance, especially when the Blue Jays are outpacing the whole league by 15 points at the moment.
So you can say that's a bit of an unlucky break for the Rays and maybe a lucky break for the Jays.
No, not
Duke.
possible.
What do you say about this one, Duke?
I think things are right now favoring Mark. Obviously, he has the 25-point lead. He definitely has better pitching for the rest of the week. I want to say the Rays have Cole Irvin, I don't know how you say his name, Henches or something like that.
Yeah.
And somebody else that wasn't very memorable. And Marquez, again, weather dependent. He's got Corbin Burns on Sunday, Aaron Nola Thursday, and then he'll have his choice among like Eric Lauer, Chris Paddock, and Drew Smiley for the other. I think he has one or 2 more. So I think things are looking pretty good for Mark right now. It's going to come down to Mark's starting pitching against the Rays offense and obviously I think Mark has the advantage because he has a pretty decent lead right now.
Yeah, and that Albies thing is you could easily see him like not playing through the weekend, even if he doesn't go IL. He really took a hard shot off the knee, and it was kind of like a funny spot on the knee. It looked like it was like right on top to where, yeah, the x-rays were negative and stuff, but you could easily see it being very sore. Even if he does play, he's obviously not going to be 100%. So that's yet another tough injury that's hitting a playoff team right in the middle of the playoffs. Like it seems like nobody is immune to it. It's just about the depth that you have to absorb that kind of stuff, or you don't. And the Rays had come on recently. They've put up big weeks. He's put up high 300s. I don't know if the Rays have ever went over 400 like the Jays. The Jays definitely have. Yeah, I know Mark. Mark likes. I don't know if he likes it, but he talks about his misfortune a lot. But Mark is a good fantasy player, as much as some of us like to give him a little bit of shit because he does kind of lament his bad luck more than anybody else, especially for a top team in the league. But there's a reason he's a top team, and he can absorb not getting the best starts at a Giolito or whatever it is that he might be dealing with this week, a guy blowing a save or whatever it might be. I still think the Jays are going to have this matchup pretty firmly in hand when it's all said and done. And he's going to be one of the tougher teams in the AL. The AL is tough, but the Jays are right there. What's the next? Oh, I refreshed and it like cut everything off. What's the next one here?
White Sox Angel.
Yeah. You got something, Josh?
I was going to say it reordered your thing for some reason, but yeah, it's the White Sox Angels.
Yeah, it did. I don't get it. White Sox Angels, which is like a super intriguing matchup, if only because of the way it looks right this minute. Like if you ask most people, I think most of the year, would you see the White Sox kind of getting beat pretty good? Unless I haven't looked at the updated, they were down by like 40 something points to the Angels. Yeah, give or take 135-94. The White Sox have been living on pitching. He's been a pitching first team. It's not that the Sox don't have good bats, but when I think of the White Sox, I think of the pitching. But the Angels, if you've seen some of the pods before where I talk about how are the Angels doing what they're doing, like putting up the numbers that he's putting up, it's a little bit better team than I initially thought it was, but they kind of remind me of the Padres. You kind of look at them and say, there's not a ton here that's like really impressive and really sticks out, but they consistently put up good points. He had a great record to finish the year, and right now in the first round, he's sticking it to the White Sox. Jeff had the lineups between these two teams as a draw, and he had the pitching advantage, both starting and relief, going to the Sox, kind of unsurprisingly. Duke, what do you think generally? I'm curious to know what other people think about the Angels. What do you think generally about the Angels? And then what did you think about this matchup at the beginning of the week?
I'll start with the matchup before I get into the Angels. So coming into the week, Red Sox Josh. Coming into the week, I was kind of like you alluded to it already, Alan. The White Sox have been kind of one of the favorites all season. They have had really great pitching. They've put up a bunch of huge weeks and had a really good record. They've kind of, I don't want to say they didn't back into the playoffs, but they haven't had quite as good a second half as the first half, I don't think. Just off the top of my head without looking at the records. But he doesn't really have a whole lot of pitching left this week. He's got Max going right now. He's only had one start. I think it was Cole. He's got Max going tonight, and then all he has left is Mills against the Pirates tomorrow or Friday. Matt Boyd against the Reds on Saturday, and Marco Gonzalez against Arizona on Saturday, and that's all he has left.
Decent matchup there.
Having Bassett and Bieber still on the IL definitely hurts. And he just lost Bogarts as well. Red Sox Josh could probably give us a better update on Bogarts, but I think coming into the week I would say White Sox, but now I'm not so sure. I mean, losing Bogarts and only having a couple starts left and not super great pitchers. I think Harry could be in trouble.
Yeah, I would not have seen the Sox getting bounced in the first, but I think the path to that is pretty clear right now. Josh, I'm pretty sure you had the nod at the beginning of the week to the Sox, but that's got to have changed by now.
Yeah, I had the White Sox an 81% chance to win. I think out of all the projections I made, that's the one I side the least with right now. So count me on board of the people who doubted the Angels and shouldn't have. I know, Alan, you've been talking about that all season for your updates. Just I don't see where it's coming from, but the Angels team is legit. I know in my conversations I've had with the Angels manager, Dan, that he's a pretty sharp guy. He knows what he's doing. Can't get any fast ones by him as far as the trade market goes. Then again, I haven't really been able to do that with anyone, save maybe one person. I'm just messing. But I think that at this point it's really not looking good. I have the White Sox offense projected above the Angels, but not by enough for it really to be a difference maker to overcome the lack of pitching they seem to have this week. I have a league where I thought my team was pretty legit. It's actually a team with I'm not sure, Alan, I think, Alan, you are in the league, the Don Zimmer Fight Club. I had Bassett in that league, and my team is completely fallen apart without him. I think he's a guy that is performing a lot better than maybe a lot of people thought he would, but is secretly, when you have a player like that, when you hit on a player that you weren't expecting that production from, it can lead to, and I don't want to accuse Harry of anything here, but it happened to me. So I'm speaking from my own experience here. I don't know how much of it applies to Harry, but it gives you a sense of false depth that you don't have when you hit on someone like Bassett. And as soon as you lose Bassett, you realize, okay, I really had just hit on this one guy and gotten ace production from a guy I didn't expect to. And without him, that means really bad things for my team. And then throw on top of that the loss of Bogarts to COVID. Bogarts was vaccinated, by the way. I know there's some misinformation going around out there. He was one of the ones. Red Sox Josh, I'm on the pulse here. But I think you said he lost another pitcher as well. I missed the name, but it shows in the.
It was Bieber, who he hasn't had pretty much all season.
Okay. But it shows
more.
Yeah, it sounds like he only has maybe 5 total pitchers this week. We've seen the numbers, the importance of getting to that 7 number. So losing 2 pitchers, losing a guy like Bassett is really huge. And I've got to give it to Angels Dan. I think this is a pretty big upset. I had the White Sox when I simulated it, going all the way to the I think I have them losing to the Tigers in the championship round for the AL, but. The Angels look like a real force, second most points on the week at the moment.
They do, but when we get to Sunday, I think tonight is going to loom large for the Angels because he got a combined 5 points out of 2 starts. He got 4.5 out of Kaprelian, and he only got half a point out of Matt Harvey. So, if anything ends
up...
That's
half a more of a point than I would have been counting on.
Yeah, right, yeah. Because Scherz is probably going to be Scherz. He looks to be cruising pretty well in the second right now. He's already at 5 points. He got 34 at a Cole today. So the gap that we see right now between them could very easily be pretty well closed up by the end of the night. And then we talked about what we're looking at the rest of the week. Maybe it looks a little sunnier for the White Sox, because it's not quite taking a negative. But when you have 2 of your 7 starts combined for 5 points, that's going to end up hurting you against these top teams. And the White Sox are a top team, even if they're not necessarily playing like it right now. I think that's going to end up coming back to bite the Angels a little bit. I can't imagine I mean, you want to get your 7 starts, but man, Matt Harvey is not good. But I can't say a whole lot. But
so the Angels, it's not super impressive. Well, I shouldn't say that. I actually like one or two of these guys this week, but he's got Eric Fetty against the Mets on Saturday, and also on Saturday he has Kyle Hendricks against the Pirates. You know, you never know, but that should be a favorable matchup for Hendricks. And then the Red Sox actual best pitching
Angels just got 10 more points.
Yep. But the White Sox got like 20 though. So 30. No, 20. The Red Sox actual best pitching prospect, Tanner Houck, against Cleveland on Saturday too. So
I'll take any Red Sox praise from Duke. He hates our farm system. He thinks Cassis.
He does not like Cassis.
I meant to bring this up earlier. So you kind of seemed a little. I don't mean to take us too off target here, but we were talking about Adam and the Phillies, and you were saying a little disappointed in the route he's taken. I wonder how much of that came as you look when he trades someone like Cassis for Juan Soto. You must have been thinking that was the greatest trade of all time for Adam there.
What was the trade? He traded because he had Cassis, right?
Yeah, he traded Cassis for Juan Soto. There was more pieces involved in that trade, but those were the 2 big pieces.
Well, then he traded Soto again, didn't he? Because he doesn't have Soto now, does he?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you probably were like a proud dad moment. Like, let's go. Turn Cassis into the best player in baseball, not named Ohtani.
Well, the other thing about Cassis in this league, I think he's $8. So not only is he overrated, but he's $8.
Overrated, overpriced. Ooh, not a good combo.
He's no.
How dare you speak ill of the American Nightmare?
Eric Cross was comparing him to. He said he's the next Joey Votto. I'm not seeing that.
I'm not seeing that either. I'm seeing far grander things. When we're talking about Cassis, the American Nightmare, there aren't going to be questions about if he's a Hall of Famer that are settled in the late years of his career. We're going to know immediately that's a Hall of Famer. So I don't even know why limit his potential to a Joey Votto.
I think Red Sox fans already have the ballots in the box for him being in the Hall of Famer. So,
Josh, have you heard that the story of Cassis? It was a couple years ago in it wasn't a minor league game. It was like an like an instructional game or something. He got hit by. It was last year. So yeah, he got hit by somebody, and then he refused to take his base. Houck hit him. Cassis refuses to take his base, and then homers on the next pitch or something. And
I actually have not heard that, which is quite embarrassing here for Red Sox, Josh, with my finger on the pulse. But what I will say is Cassis is a guy, Red Sox podcast I listened to interviewed him once, and he was so overly confident in himself that they were convinced that they had been pranked and weren't actually even interviewing him. So Cassis has he has some confidence. Let's just say that. He probably also thinks Joey Votto is aiming a little low.
Yikes. Yeah, I think so. Cassis and what's your boy's name?
Which Durant, boy? Right? We have at least 15 of them. I think you're talking about Jeter Downs, though.
No, not Jeter Downs.
My actual boy, Connor Siebold.
Jaron Duran, my boy.
Jaron Duran.
Yeah. Jaron Duran.
Tonight's hero. Let's go, Alan.
So here's my. I know we're way off track right now, but here's my theory on the Red Sox prospect type, especially this year. Is they were one of the few organizations that allowed scouts into their alternate training site, and they had. I don't know if they had TrackMan set up at the alternate training site, but there was some data coming out of there, and I think that specifically caused a lot of because a lot of other teams didn't have any of that information. Scouts weren't seeing the prospects, so all the attention was put on these couple different teams, Boston being one of them, and I think that's one of the reasons their prospects got kind of overhyped this year.
In our world too, it definitely doesn't hurt the Red Sox hype when one of the most prominent prospect guys is a huge Red Sox fan and's like kind of blatantly a Red Sox homer. I mean, we were joking about how Blaze Jordan has like a good week and he's like, man, Jordan borderline top 100. It's like, okay, slow it down.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You mentioned that, Duke, about them like opening up like maybe the data being skewed a little bit. Like, both of you guys are pretty like analytically oriented. Do either one of you remember the last couple years? I think it maybe started in 19 and carried into the short season. The weird data about the Tigers at home, about their exit velocities and stuff, and like there was weird theories about the Tigers at home, about the batter's eye like being so good in Detroit that it was contributing to higher average exit velo for guys when they were playing in Tiger Stadium. Do either one of you guys remember that, or am I crazy?
No, I never heard that.
Like I don't remember where it was. It might have been like the Petriello, like the StatCast podcast or something. I'd be really hard pressed to find it, but it was like really weird stuff. Like Miggy Cabrera having like a way higher exit velo, like his highest was coming at like a lot of these guys, all of their really high exit velo was all coming at home. And it was like way skewed more than the rest of the league. You'd expect a bunch of Coors guys to like be on the top of that list, but it was always Tigers guys. And there was no real like theory behind it. Like, why is this happening? Is there stuff that they have installed like messed up? Is that leading to actual skewed data? Or is there something tangible about Comerica that's, and this is way fucking off base from what we were talking about. So
that's kind of weird. But you wouldn't think that because it's such a pitcher's ballpark.
Yeah, it's a giant outfield and everything. So what would, weird.
So in summary, though, I was going to say, in summary, we are done doubting the Angels.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much wraps up that's the last matchup, right? Yeah, that's the last matchup. So I had talked shit about the Angels a lot, and then I had even kind of outed myself and said, well, it's a team I'm wrong about, and he's kind of carried that through the entire rest of the season and into the playoffs. The Angels had a really good record. They didn't squeak in or anything. They weren't like me or the Yankees, or didn't finish the season kind of like the Marlins did. Dan made a couple of moves kind of surprisingly. I know I had said I had tried to make a couple moves early in the year and he just wasn't really into it. Clearly guy knows what he's doing. Not super active in Discord, but you don't have to be, to be a good ABL owner. So, that's the first round. I think we might see some upsets come the end of the week. I think Josh, your early week predictions and projections are pretty much holding true. I think there was one. It was this one we just talked about, right? That you had the Sox at like 80% or whatever that are.
Yeah, that one looks really bad. I think the Cardinals at 60 doesn't look great as well. The other ones, they're still possible. They're very crude projections. The one other comment I just want to make though is like what a league we have here. I mean, just look at how the scores. The Phillies 141, the Rays 138. The Mariners 144, the Twins 134, the Angels 145. Like that is a significant group of teams that are towards the top in scoring that are all tightly packed. I mean, this is going to be a really exciting finish. There's a lot of parity in this league. I do think that the Tigers and Pirates are probably on a collision course. Although I don't know, Pirates, did they overlook the Rockies? And I've already heard some comments from their manager seeming to indicate they're got their eyes set on the Tigers already. Putting up totals like 107. I don't know.
Right,
will they make it?
Not an impressive week so far.
Hey, it doesn't have to be. I'm not trying to be like self-deprecating, but I know where my team is at right now, and I think I was only projected for 3 starts on the week. So even if I got all 3 of those, this is the week that even bad Brad Keller goes down, so I don't even have him to be bad. I don't even get his 4 or 5 points that he was maybe going to give me. So it is what it is. With
Coar and Cabrera coming up, I had like 13 or 14 starts. I had to pick pick from.
First world
Which
problems.
I'm really bad at. I wish I only had 7. I wish I only had 7 because I always pick the wrong guys. I'm horrible at it. So
I
Right, so
tried to take some of those players from Duke at the deadline. He was having none of it. I maybe because I posed it as like, here, let me help you out. I'll just take him from you. I don't think it was.
you got Josh James. He should be a starter.
Well, just imagine like Scrooge McDuck sitting in his vault and somebody offers to come and trade him like 2 silver coins for 1 gold coin. It's like, I don't really need them. I've got all this gold.
It is
already.
like that. I'm always like, Duke, what would you say your biggest team need is right now? And he'd be like, I don't have any. I'm kidding. He never said that, but you could see it.
Easily could, though. All right, I've kept you guys for an hour and a half already, but I do want to do some. Like I said at the very beginning, I wanted to rip off some quick baseball trivia. I kept it pretty modern. I didn't go too late or too obscure. And all we're gonna do is
I was born in 2007, right?
Yeah, yeah, but you know what you're doing.
I'm kidding.
I've got a list of 6 players. And I think you'll probably recognize a theme. And I'm just going to ask you a number, career. What's his career? Whatever. And you're going to write it down on a piece of paper because that's really the only way I can think of doing it fair. I can't have one of you say it and then the next guy say it because we're just going whoever's closest. It's not Price is Right style. It's not you're allowed to go over. It's just closest to the actual number. So, we'll give you a solid few seconds, but we're not going to do like Jeopardy timer or anything. We're going to rip through it pretty quick. So this is going to be career hits for Jason Bay. Career hits, Jason Bay.
I don't even know. I don't even know a good guess for this. Who is this? No, I'm kidding.
These will all be guys that played for either the Sox or the Pirates, and some of them played for both.
I think I'm gonna get laughed out of the room after this performance.
I kind of thought about that because I was thinking about it for myself, and I would have been way off on some of these. I'm like, man, I would have looked like an idiot. I hope these guys don't resent me for this, but.
All right, I'm
good.
I got my bad guess ready.
Me too.
What do you got, Josh? What do you got?
I've got 1,028.
All right.
Oh,
and
we're close to each other.
Ooh, so the actual number is 1,200 exactly.
Dang.
I
think the Duke's got me barely.
Yeah. Yeah, Duke's nice. 1,200 hits exactly for Jason Bay, and I don't know if I would have assumed.
I love how you two were so
that.
specific with our guys.
Yeah, you guys were both right, the same amount off. It was right there, so not too skewed there. But
I want to say he was probably. I'd have to look it up, but he did the home run derby one year, and I don't know if he hit a single home run. It was probably
wasn't that the year that it was in Comiskey Park or whatever the White Sox Park was called back then? I think. It was, and I think he was pretty bad. Yeah, I remember. Next guy is a pitcher. We're going to go career wins for Tim Wakefield.
Oh, yes, my hero.
Former Pirate, former Red Sox.
I've got this memorized. No, I'm kidding.
Not much of a Pirate. I think he was only a Pirate for 2 seasons. But
well, yeah, he was an outfielder initially, and then somebody saw him throwing knuckleballs against the fence.
What makes this so tricky is how many weird wins did he get in the bullpen?
Yeah, as a
long reliever.
Yeah.
I'm probably way off now that I'm really thinking about it. Whatever. I'm in. I'm locked.
All right. What do we got, boys?
Oh my gosh. Yep.
What did Josh say?
98
and 2. So the actual number is 200.
Wow.
Exactly 200.
It was those.
Yeah. He played forever, man. He fucking played forever. Yeah.
See, my thought process is as a starter, he couldn't have had many because it's always 4 or 5 runs. Gosh, that was horrible logic.
200. Pretty impressive. I was surprised to see
pretty.
200 wins for Tim Wakefield. I really was.
I mean, he should be in the Hall of Fame before Yadier Molina. That's for sure.
Not going to get off track on that. We'll just next one is slightly more. He's probably the most obscure guy on this list. We're going to go career home runs for Pedro Alvarez, former Pirate legend Pedro Alvarez. How many career home runs did he hit? Had some big years, had some big home run years, but I don't know. Would you call him a disappointment? And kind of the era of the Pirates where like Tabata was coming up and Alvarez, and maybe they had some.
He was like
young guys.
He was the number 2 overall pick, but he was really good during our playoff years of like 13 to 15.
How long was his career, Duke?
Not very long.
Yeah, not very.
I want to say like 6 or 7.
Oh
years.
no! Oh gosh. I think I'm fine. Okay, 6, 7. I think I'm fine. Okay.
All right, what do we got?
Ready?
145 and 111. Okay, so man, this is the true number is 162.
Jeez.
162.
6 or 7.
So
more than I thought.
man,
All right,
Duke crushing it here.
My next guess is going to be 100 higher than I think it is.
I'll tell you what. Rest of the way, there's only 3 more left. But if you happen, let's say if you get it within 2, that's 2 points.
It won't matter. It will not matter. Clearly, I've shown I did not watch baseball in the early 2000s.
I tried to keep it modern, man. I tried.
No, these are modern. I've known all 3 players, which is good.
Okay. Next one, career stolen bases for Carl Crawford.
Oh.
Career steals. Carl Crawford, who maybe made more money. Maybe Jacoby Ellsbury's on this list, but Crawford made a lot of money for doing a whole lot of nothing. And now owns a record label, I believe. And screws his musicians out of money, apparently. He needs the money. Locked in? Yeah, what do we got? 278 and 156.
I should have done it again. I should have done that plus 100 again.
So I'm going to say Duke is right, but you guys are both going to be surprised. He had 480 career steals. Ooh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, pretty surprising. Like with the Rays, he really was a demon on the base paths. He racked them up, man. I was surprised to see almost 500. I really was. I don't know what I would have said.
Do you think any player in the history of or in the future of baseball forever and ever has that many steals again?
No.
Unless the game makes a drastic change somehow. I don't see it.
Yeah, the ones that are capable and that can't hit, that's the problem.
Or the ones that do are kind of too good of hitters, like Trey Turner and those guys. They're almost too good of hitters to.
Mondesi just hits home runs. Doesn't get the chance.
So that one will go to Duke, but man, both.
At least you know I'm not cheating, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I had a feeling I was well on that one.
This one will be funky, and this will be pure guess and speculation. But I kind of thought it was fun. AJ Burnett, maybe AJ Burnett was a little ahead of Josh's time. Like Duke probably.
I know AJ Burnett,
but
I'm still gonna.
We're gonna go career wild pitches. So AJ Burnett, it was the guy that threw a no-hitter while also walking like 9 guys. It was either 8 or 9 guys. How many career wild pitches? He had a hell of a spike curveball. He would throw it, 58 feet a lot of time and have bouncers and shit on the Marlins, on the Pirates.
Okay, this is my real guess plus 100. I did it.
All right.
I think.
What do you got?
I think I'm high, but
333 and 228. So Josh is going to come away with this one. The true answer was 161, which is still a lot. I feel like that's a lot of wild pitches.
Wow. I was almost within 2. So close. 156.
Yeah, if you wouldn't have added the 100.
No, I would have. No. I'm trying to get within 2 here so I can make a comeback.
I just wanted to give Josh a win.
Yeah, sure. The one that Alan prefaces with, this one is by far the one that is only luck based. That's what
right. And we'll round it out. You know what? We'll say, Josh, if you nail this one, we'll make this worth like 5 points, and you can.
I feel like if I nail it, I deserve a little more than just 5 points.
5 points will give you the win.
I don't want. If I nail this guess, like I deserve cash. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. We're gonna go career batting average for our former Red Sox great Mike Lowell.
Yeah, buddy.
Career batting average, Mike Lowell.
Got my first number.
Did Mike Lowell ever win the MVP, or did he have like the one year where he was a really high MVP or something, or did he like have it out of nowhere?
In 2003, when they won the World Series before he came to the Red Sox, I think he might have. I don't know if he won the MVP, but he had a really good year that year. Yeah,
he had some kind of like crazy good season. I could look that up real quick.
So this is my real guess plus 100. I've got 100 point.
Michael's career average was 450. All right, what do we got?
Oh man, I just realized how bad of a guess I made.
297. All right, so it's going to be Duke. The true answer, 279.
Wait, that's what I put. I have number dyslexia. Not a joke, actually. I do. But that's not what I actually put. But I got, come on, 5 points. I got the right.
Yeah, they were just transposed. That's pretty much right. What was that? Oh, he finished fifth in the MVP in 2007. He drove in 120 runs and hit 324 for the Red Sox.
Yeah, see, that's what I remember. 324. I'm like, it's gotta be around 300.
Yeah, and then he hit 290 for a year, and
But actually, I guess 279. Can you give me half points? I'm still in last. 2.5.
Yeah, I'll give you half. Yeah, sure, I'll give you half.
Thank you.
So you're not in last. You're in second.
There you go.
Yeah, have you guys? So Duke wins. That's armchair baseball trivia, which I'm gonna do when I have 2 guys on and nothing better to fill some time with.
Next time, I'm gonna make sure to have my like a second monitor set up with like Baseball Reference pulled up. You won't even tell I'm cheating
with one hand off the screen.
Yeah.
One thing I was just kind of looking at while I was on Baseball Reference. Have you guys realized how shitty Joey Gallo has been since the trade to the Yankees? Yeah, he's hitting a $141 with 5 homers.
I mean,
terrible.
But honestly, Rizzo hasn't been that much better.
That's fair. But I mean, come on, it's like Joe. I mean, he did well in the home run derby. He was pacing pretty well. You know, he was pacing to finish the season with 40+ homers. Now he's going to be lucky to hit 35 the way he's going.
How's he been getting on base? Because I know that's the other skill he really has.
He's hitting 141 and he's OBP in 317. It's like a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk. Which
317 might be exactly league average. I'm gonna look. That's very close.
If he was hitting 220, 230, you know, obviously that OBP looks a lot better. But man, he's hitting
316. See, Alan, why didn't we do? Hey, what's the league average on base percentage? 316. 243 league average.
I'm curious what his BABIP is since the trade.
I am on Baseball Reference right now. I was going to look at that because is he just getting? So it is 208. Like his career average is 268. He was BABIPing 275 in Texas. It's 208 as
I don't think
a Yankee.
I don't think he's ever had like a high BABIP though.
No, yeah, like I said, career average 268. He had a 368 BABIP in 2019, which was a way outlier, but even his ISO is like down to 202 with the Yankees. He's just not. He's striking out a little bit more. The walk rate's the same, but he's just not. He's just not doing
probably
it.
More bad. It's probably more luck than anything else if his BABIP's that much lower.
Yeah. Well,
BABIP's
202. I mean, 202. He's.
You
Sorry,
guys
say that
ready to
again?
do the consolation bracket?
Oh, Jesus Christ! I wrote nothing for the console bracket. Maybe as we get down the road, I'll do a consolation. I'm not ready for another 4-hour podcast.
Tony's really into consolation bracket content, so maybe he'll go on, start his own.
Yeah, I'll read Tony stuff instead of Jeff stuff. We're coming up on.
I can give you the whole rundown right now. There's this team, and everyone's sleeping on it. I think they go by the name Giants. Is that how you pronounce it? Giants. I think that they likely will run the table in the consolation bracket. That's all you need to know.
Well, you would think people would be pulling for the Mets, right? Like, the Mets have to have, but I don't think the Mets are necessarily. My dark horse is the D-backs. I haven't actually.
It's gonna be the D-backs
this week, but yeah, I like the D-backs.
I believe the consolation bracket isn't reseeded. I think it's just a straight bracket. And if I happen to beat,
it's reseeded as well.
Oh, it is reseeded? Okay,
yeah.
Thank goodness, because I do not want to play the Diamondbacks. To be real, I don't want to play the Diamondbacks. Well, at first I have to win, which is not a given by any means. It's going to be 50-50. But I don't want to play the Diamondbacks. I don't want to play the Mets. I don't want to play the A's. There might be one other team in there. But it's like other than that,
Astros
like it does. Oh, the Astros! I think they also made some trades actually to try and boost their chances. Well, most of those teams, it's kind of like whichever one gets to 100 first might win. So, but
I wouldn't want to play.
Yeah, maybe as
they've been putting up some points.
That's true.
No, I think I saw the Brewers actually have like 7 starters this week too. That is not common in the consolation.
The Brewers really flipped very quickly. Like Zach took over, and that team. I don't know if it was just Rob was not ever setting his lineup or what, but that team like immediately turned around and just started getting better and better and better. So man, that I do not envy the NL Central going forward. We'll probably do another one of these as the playoffs go on. This is week 1. I plan on keeping the pod going, plan on trying to crank out content, through the off season and stuff too. So I think, no, I will not. Tony wants me to talk about Rob and hockey. So Duke knows this already. Rob bailed on this hockey league that Cleveland Mark had invited a couple of us to. And Rob, the guy that had bailed on the Brewers, he found out it was in the Constitution. Like, I don't like it either that the commissioner takes a cut from the prize pool for running the league, which I think is, ridiculous. He thinks it's normal and expected, this commissioner. And
you guys didn't I think in our Constitution, I get a 50% cut.
Oh, was that a typo? I don't think Joe's going to buy that, Duke. I don't think he's going to buy it. It was a typo.
I didn't see that in the table, the inflation table. That's nothing.
Must have went in and
mention.
changed it afterwards. Yeah, he's going to run in after this podcast and change it real quick, and we're just going to have to take his word for it because he's honest Duke. But yeah, anyway, so Rob immediately bailed after that was like made clear. So he didn't read it, and somebody brought it up, and he's like, "Oh, fuck this!" And it's like $2 from each guy. It's not a huge deal, and I don't agree with it, but at least he was upfront about it.
Teams were drafted?
Well, we had done the rookie draft. We had only done the 5-round rookie draft. But the thing was, the Constitution had been out for a couple weeks. Like Rob had everybody had a chance to read it and go over it. Everybody knew about it. But then Rob was reading in the Discord. He's like, "Well, you're gonna have to find somebody to take my team over. I'm not, you're not taking a cut at my expense and blah 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 blah." And man, he really really got roasted for it. I kind of felt bad for him because I called him out for flaking on ABL. I called him out in front of everybody. I'm like, "Motherfucker, this is not the first time you've done this. You completely flaked on the ABL. You gave some horseshit line about getting a new job and not having the time for it. And then I saw you in a new Dynasty Startup Hockey League. So obviously you were full of shit." And he did he wasn't mean to me about it. He's like, man, you don't know what people have going on in their life and stuff, which he's right. I probably shouldn't have called him out. I kind of felt bad about it, but this is a guy now that has flaked completely and abandoned 2 teams. The only reason I know this guy exists is because I've been in these leagues with him. So I guess that's the long way of saying I think we got a much better owner in Zach for the Brewers, and especially, for the Giants. Roger, we know the story with him.
Is that how you say the name? Giants?
Yeah, I think that's San Francisco, which I know is like getting ready to
silent G.
No, but I will say I appreciate the respect you're giving me, but just real quick, because I do have to. I'm sure my wife is starting to have some questions about what is going on. But I think these other two new managers since I joined the league really scare me. I think Zach has just random knowledge about the most random players in the prospect pool, and that frightens me because, I mean. I'm going to be honest, when I inherited my team, I would say my minor league system was 90% guys I had never heard of. I bet Zach would have heard of all of them. And then Steven over here, he's a lawyer. He's got experience on Kamala Harris's campaign, and politics aside, very, very intelligent person. Yeah, the fact that he's in being able to hang out there that type of person also scares me. Way too smart. And we know we already have some really smart people in this league, but yeah, I kind of wish, after me, you kind of got some flakes in this league to make, me look a little better, but I'm doing my best here to just keep up with those two.
Yeah.
I think we did great in the guys we got. Go ahead.
Steven literally just wrote a brief to the Supreme Court 2 weeks ago.
In between making trades with the Orioles. Yeah.
He sent us the link to it. It's he wrote a brief about he's representing a group that's suing the U.S. government over torture.
Yeah, and then Frank comes out and he's like, oh, my dad was the general that wrote the first amicus or whatever on this topic. It's man, I feel like such a dumbass every time one of these guys speaks up with their actual real life experience. I just kind of shrink down a little bit more. Okay, I made the playoffs, guys, in the ABL. That's my claim to fame.
While we're talking, Frank, I don't know if he listens to this, but I just want to give him a shout out. That dude always hits with the jokes. Every joke he has is hilarious to me. I don't know if it's just my specific sense of humor, but every time he puts a joke in there, it makes me laugh, which is kind of hard.
It's funny you say that, Josh, because you're one of the youngest guys we have in the league, and I think Frank might legitimately be the oldest guy we have in the league. So for his jokes to land with you,
that's how good he is, dude.
Frank's with it. Yeah, he knows what's going on. And I think he's actually the closest guy to me. Geography wise, he's over in Utah, so he's one of the few guys. If I always joke around about doing Vegas winter meetings next year or whatever, and I told Frank, man, I'll pick you up on the way. I'll be driving, I'll pick you up on the way, man. You don't even have to worry about it. Frank's the only guy I could actually do that with, and I think it'd probably be a pretty good car ride. Listening to whatever this guy wants to talk about, I'll listen to anything he has to talk about, and I think it'll go by pretty quick. So. Again, I give props to this league all the time. It's nice to do it with Duke sitting here, the guy that put it all together, who I really got really lucky. I think we were in the same mock for some podcast or something, and you happened to mention you were putting a league together. I got so lucky to find this league. I never do mocks. I hate mock drafts. So for me to even do one, and then for me to interact with anybody in a mock, I never really do that because usually they're not worth it. So the circumstances that came together for me to be in this league, I could not be more happy with the way it's gone.
There's been a lot of kissing of Duke's gluteus maximus in this podcast, and so I just want to say I don't want it to be lost that Duke has rigged the league to his advantage. We have to remember he gets to see every single player we're keeping before he makes his decisions.
Yes, he does. That is true.
He's established precedents that his own constitution can contradict itself. So if we ever think, hey, didn't it say that here? He can just throw a random sentence in another part, says the opposite, and then I don't know. So Duke, I've got my eyes on you. I don't know much.
Thank you I appreciate you knocking me down a peg. I needed that. And I think my Constitution is actually longer than Stephen's Supreme Court brief that he wrote about torture. So.
And can you imagine the chaos that would be thrown if a Constitution were allowed to be amended? Can you imagine that happening to any Constitution ever? Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, these things are unprecedented. So, to even think of such a thing. Yeah, what? That's crazy. Amend a Constitution. All right, so we're like right at 2 hours. That's like twice as long as I expected us to go. So I thank both of you guys for hanging in there, and your wives for like letting you hang in there. Thank you both.
Mine's been asleep for 2 hours, so.
Yeah, I'm worried.
Oh yeah, it's like 11 o'clock for you guys. Yeah, shit. Yeah, thanks Josh for doing all the work that you did. Thanks Duke for giving us some Wednesday night, and of course doing all the work that you do. We'll do it again soon. And any last words before we sign off? You got anything else that we didn't get to?
The only thing I'll say is, without being too cheesy, like this is, and I don't take any credit for any of this. This is all, I guess the only thing I can take credit for is just like trying to put 30 people together to do a league like this. But I'm like, every day this league gets more and more fun just because of things like this podcast, and even, Josh's, all the work he put into like the projections for the playoffs and the write-ups that Jeff and Tony were doing for all the matchups. I'm just like blown away with how many really smart fantasy people we have in this league, and all the time and effort that they put into it. And it just makes it more and more fun every day. So I appreciate it.
I think we got a good thing going here. I think we do.
Absolutely.
All right, Josh, you good?
Yeah, just I don't want to follow that up. It's a great league. It's a lot of fun. I just thank you guys that you even allow someone, that's in my age range. I understand how annoying my age range is. We think we're the best, and we're out here with the third, fourth worst team.
Oh man,
you'll never know it by the way we talk about it.
I know, Duke. I think you said you have the football thread like muted, but man, these guys, him and Josh and his buddy Squiv, they know how to get to Sam. Like I haven't known Sam all that long, but like for the Discord people, these guys get to Sam like nobody else I've seen. It's pretty good stuff. Yeah, that's a good rivalry. So thank you guys again, and we'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.